welcome to the third episode, Holy Brothers podcast.
Unbelievable, Baruch Hashem. So what should we talk about tonight?
You know, there's so much going on in the world. Today is Yud Gimel Tammuz, sister's birthday, and freedom of the previous Rebbe from Russia. You know, he was fighting for the Jewish people, and he tried to stop that and basically say that was anti-government. And there's a whole movement that, you know, basically caused people internationally, Jews and many different nations alike, fought to gain his freedom and impressed upon Russia that, you know, this is not fighting for religion, fighting for the Jewish people and for the education of the Jewish people. And Torah Judaism is not anti-government. It does not fight against a local government. There are so many things that unpack there that is relevant to all of our lives, which is why I think the Frierdiker Rebbe and then the Rebbe pushed that this day is really a holiday for all those, and the wording is very interesting because for all those that are called the name Yisrael. So it's a very powerful lesson, and there's all different kinds of things to unpack. One thing that just comes to mind right now that maybe we could sit on this is the fact that, you know, the wording is used Yisrael, not Yehuda, Jew, which is classically used, you know, from Judah, that element of being a Jew, or and not the children of Yaakov, but Yisrael, that part of a Jew that is untouched by the world, that is higher than the world, that is master, Yisar Kel, master of even the godly energies that are what makes this world. And it's a day of redemption for all of us and that part of us. And I think that's the part I think where we can connect together and unite. That's why Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We say, Israel, the name, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. That unity comes about from that part of us that is higher than division.
I love that because today my son attended a rally in honor of the Frierdiker Rebbe's release from prison many years ago, and they gave out to all the kids this book for anyone who joined this rally, and it was all about how the Frierdiker Rebbe as a boy got into a fight with a police officer in Russia who was doing police brutality on a fellow Jew. And as a young boy, the Frierdiker Rebbe, who was destined to become this great Jewish leader, attacked a police officer who was a full-grown adult as a child to protect his fellow Jew who was being beaten with police brutality that was unjustified. We all know what Russia must have been like 100 years ago. Very different than the systems, even if they need a lot of work or reform today that we have in the United States. So I thought that, wow, this is so amazing that by divine providence, all the kids are walking away with this story about it. Just because someone wears a badge doesn't mean they deserve to wear the badge. And I always pray for my sisters and brothers in blue. There's so many police officers out there that deserve the title of superhero because they're placing their lives on the line. And I'm totally against the idea of defunding the cops. I think on the contrary, we should be funding the cops even more to make sure that all cops are going to be the good cops. And I love that idea that you just were quoting some Hasidic teachings from the Frierdiker Rebbe in reference to what's going on. And the story of the Frierdiker Rebbe as a boy is what I just was exposed to today.
Wow, Nancy, that's something. It's so powerful. There's so many things that totally relate to what's going on right now.
Are you pro defunding the cops?
Defunding the police station? No. I am pro a major reform and a third party investigative level at the federal level of every police station. That the investigations for misconduct should not be in-house. It's like in Torah we say, Negea b'davar. How are you supposed to investigate yourself? You need a third party. You need the third member of Beis Din. You need that third element. I think there definitely needs, based on what's happened and especially highlighted by our brothers, our African American and otherwise, you know, brothers and sisters of color, but as well as there's many people who are Caucasian and of all different types that have suffered from this kind of abuse of authority. And I I think it does touch on a deeper level, a deeper thing of, in general, there's something going on in the world today about how we react to authority, from both sides. People who have positions of authority and leadership that I think are not leading properly. They're either doing the thing of, like, they're looking where the people will run and they just try to run there first and then pretend that they led the way there, or they are just using, and abusing. They're just saying, oh, this is my power. That means I can do what I want to boost myself. And it's neither of those things, but it has elements of both of those things of what true leadership is. And I think the police force is a direct example of it, and it's the example that's being focused on right now. Where real leadership is supposed to be leading and for the people, always for the people. Why does there was an expression, the kings of old, the nations of the world, it used to be the armies would go out first and the king would be behind. But the Jewish king, the king would be at the front of the army and the army behind him. Why? Because what does that mean? Because he's actually leading. He's not just trying to use his people to fight his wars for him as some sort of fodder, throwing pawns to get his way. It's no, we have to fight this war for whatever the reason is, but it's a legitimate, justified reason, and so much so that I'm going to lead you into this battle because it's right. And the contrast to that was when Paro did that. He led the entire army to try his last-ditch effort to wipe out the Jewish people by the Nile. And how it was everything wrong with his leadership, and everything that was so twisted and wrong about that world superpower, about that time, that time frame's world superpower of I'm going to lead you into this aggressive. We have to wipe these people out because they challenge our status quo. They challenge us. They say that we could be wrong, so we have to wipe them out. We have to chase after them. How dare we let them leave? How dare we let them try to go start something new and go be to themselves? No, we have to wipe them out or take them all back. But we cannot let them be. We cannot let them stand. And that was what was so wrong about that was that's not real leadership. That's not proper leadership.
Yeah. Gewaltig, bro. Gewaltig. Okay. What do you want to talk about now?
Well, there was one more story I did want to mention, from a different part of this whole story, of the previous story, that I think also very much relates to what's, I think, and something else that I think at least I am, and I think we're all struggling with sometimes, perspective and how to treat other people. And it was during the time when he was supposed to be sent to some room, to Section 4. Now it turned out, well, I don't want to telegraph the punchline, but basically on his way he took a wrong turn, so he sat down on a bench and he kind of got lost in thought. Purposely, he just transported himself away from all that negativity, focused on his father and the control of the mind, of the heart, even though he's in this negative, dark place, but to be in a positive place. And then suddenly this officer walks by and says, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "Well, I'm in prison here." He says, "What's your name?" He says, "Schneerson." "From where?" "Lubavitch." He says, "Oh, Lubavitch. Lubavitch are good people. For whatever you're in here for must be wrong." And you know how I know that? Because when I was a little boy, I lived near the town of Lubavitch. And our town, the well dried out. And by the way, this officer was not of the Jewish faith, of the Jewish people. He said, "I lived near the town of Lubavitch. And our well dried out. And we were starving. Got to the point where, so we went to the neighboring towns trying to get from their wells, and people wouldn't let us take from their wells, not because they had any malice in their heart towards us, but because they were trying to save their own families. So I'm sorry, I can't help you, because if we let you take from our well, our families might die. You're just going to come and use up our well, and there might not be enough water for us." So
right.
They turned us away, except for the people of Lubavitch. The Hasidic Jews from Lubavitch said, "No, you're in need? Here you go. Here's water. Take water." And it saved our lives. So I know these people, the city of love, this Lubavitch, these people are good people. So whatever it is you're in for must be false. Where are you supposed to be going right now? And he said, "I'm supposed to report to Section 4. And the officer turned a deathly pale. And he said, "You're not going there." Because, as it was found out later, all the religious leaders that were sent to Section 4, the minute they opened the door, were shot, and their bodies were disposed of. So they were trying to cover up and clean up what they were doing, and the persecution of different religions. So this random happenstance, again, random being one of God's nicknames, is what saved the Frierdiker Rebbe's life. But what struck me, and especially this isn't some story that you hear that's, okay, maybe it's extra credit. No, this is one that's shared over by the Rebbe, by Farbrengen. So that means there's a lesson in every part of it. The fact that you had this guy, this person sitting in Lubavitch, who, again, even from the storytellers, from the officer's perspective, they had every right to turn us away. They had to protect their family. But no, Lubavitch, we know they're good people because they, even at risk of their own their own well drying out, they said, no, you're in need right now. You need help, so take water. You need help. I'm here to help you. And that's something that I think we forget sometimes, is that it's not, us first, no, you need help right now? Take. And all the more so we should be empathetic. If you're standing in line with somebody and someone cuts you, and then he goes up towards the front and cuts someone else, and that someone else starts complaining, hey, this guy cut. Are you going to go over and say, hey, you be quiet, he cut me first? No. You're going to go over there and you're going to help him because you're empathetic, because that guy cut you first. So you know better than anyone what that means to be cut in line. We have this in life. We have this, people are in need. It shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter, they didn't listen to us when we care, so we can't, or we have to focus on ourselves first. It doesn't matter. Someone's in need, someone needs help. This is what we do. This is what we do, and this is what we have to do. And not only is it the right thing to do, it will lead to our own salvation, as it led to the Frierdiker Rebbe's salvation.
Okay, you have any good jokes?
Good jokes. I heard a new one recently that I've been obsessing over. It's a really good dad joke. In honor of 4th of July, many dads are standing, flipping burgers, and all that jazz, whether it's a veggie burger or a meat burger. So here's a good joke. Knock, knock.
Who's in?
Cargo.
Cargo.
No. Owl go who? Cargo beep beep.
My Lord. What's your favorite episode? By the way, what I was just thinking of, Ikeda Fulcher posted on social media today a picture saying, there's no white people in the Bible. Get with it, or something like that. I thought that was very powerful.
He said there were no white people in the Bible, get with it?
Something like that, yeah.
Interesting. But it's hard to tell. I don't know, sociology well enough to know, like, when different people's, skin tone started to change and when that happened. Because, again, even in the Bible, you had people who were from all over. I mean, David HaMelech was a redhead, and as you know, there are many Iranian Persians, from the south of Iran who are much fairer skinned. So it's not just Eastern European that makes a person, let's say, Caucasian, if you will. But there's all different kinds of shades of skin tone. I think we can point to that, and some people are using, of other religions, they have their hero of their religion who would try to say, yeah, he wasn't white, he was. I don't know that the whole argument is it's an interesting point. But first of all, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But even more so, I think that's not the point, though. I think the point is that we're all in this world together. Each our own cultures, our own skin tones, our own history is important, and it's the different flavors that make this and the different colors that make this tapestry beautiful, that make this planet beautiful. But what?
You think all lives matter?
In a very different way than I think a lot of people use that phrase. But I think the same goes for the phrase Black Lives Matter. There are a lot of people who have issue with the term Black Lives Matter because there are certain people who have made it a specific organization, and that organization might be a bit anti-Semitic, and ignoring the fact that there's the phrase in and of itself. So the same way, I'm not a All Lives Matter. No, I'm very much like you say, Happy Father's Day. What about mothers? Yeah, but right now we're focusing on fathers. Right now, Black Lives Matter. To the moment that when we need to be focusing on and helping our black brothers and sisters, then Black Lives Matter. You gotta focus on that. And then when someone else needs help, you focus on them. My point though is that the way to focus is not to negate others. The same way it always used to bother me, like by Farbrengen, and someone's like, oh, people who are not Chabad and people who are not Lubavitch or who are not Hasidim, they're a bunch of jokes, they're a bunch of whatever. I'd rather burn in Gehenna than be one of those guys. I was like, I felt that was wrong. That's not, it doesn't make me better because those guys are worse. Like, is that the only way I have value is when everyone else sucks? when everyone else doesn't count? Or am I an integer alongside everyone else who is an integer? Everyone else is a valuable number. And I am also a number, a different number. I don't have to be the same number as them. There is the concept of equality is not necessarily that everyone has to be equal. There was that, you ever see that comic about like where there's a fence and there's three different people who are three different sizes. So equality would mean one guy, they're all on the same level. That means one guy gets to see over the fence and two guys don't. It's not about equality in that sense. It's about helping that when people need that they can all get the same chance. So if that guy's shorter, he needs more of a boost. I have a different number, that guy's a different number, whatever it is, whatever's needed when it's needed. But if we're so focused on I only have value if everyone else is terrible, then of course we can't allow anyone else to have value because that means I don't have value anymore. And that's a severely unhealthy perspective. So I don't know. Were there no white people in the Bible? Probably not. But I honestly don't know. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not an anthropologist. I haven't studied it, honestly. But I don't think it matters. Like, why is that? That should not be the focus. Why don't get stuck on white people in the Bible? What does that do? Who cares? To me, that line is specifically geared to attack. And how's that going to help anybody? It's only going to cause someone to get defensive. But I don't know. I mean, you have people right now. Someone shared with me an article, that Ashkenazi Jews should stop identifying as white. And I don't know. I understand the concept that we are Jews, but Jews have been all over the place. So what does that mean? What is this person trying to get out of it? Am I not? Am I not Caucasian? Yes, I am Caucasian. Does that mean I'm the same, white man that did certain things that people will try to attribute, certain activities? Probably not. More than half of them not. The Jewish people weren't involved in more than half of those. Many of them, yes. But again, what does one have to do with another? It's like forcing a 5-year-old white kid to apologize for slavery. That kid had nothing to do with slavery. And at this point in his life, hopefully, if he's raised in a somewhat decent household, he even right now hasn't even done anything to perpetuate any sort of systemic racism. He's the kind of kid that if you pointed out a whole bunch of kids in his class, couldn't tell you if something was different just because his best friend is a different hair color or a different skin color. There's so many stories about kids, whether it comes to homosexuality or race, that you're like, you ask these kids these questions that us adults freak out about, and the kid's like, what? I don't even think about that. Okay, who cares? All right. It's not even a question. And you're going to go say, because of this kid's skin color, he has to do something, he has to feel bad about himself. What does one have to do with the other? I think it's where is our focus? Anyway, I guess that's my perspective as of now, I think, from my understanding as it is now.
What do you think would be the best thing that Americans could do to change what's going on, actual change?
From what I've heard from a lot of people, and I think it's the same with a lot of areas, a lot of things that are stigma, or a lot of things that are looked down upon, a lot of things that are hot button, is talk about it, share, have conversations, and again about perspective. What?
How is a bunch of talk going to change, systemic racism?
Talking about it properly is what changed perspective. What is systemic racism if not for a bad, unhealthy perspective? What are we talking about when we say systemic racism? If it's just action, then it would be simple. Just make a bunch of laws. But that's not the problem. The problem was never just laws, because laws can always be twisted around. It's the perspective. There should also be made laws. There should also be made systems. But the perspective is what needs to change. And that happens with conversation. That's not just talk radio, or me yelling in a megaphone at someone's ear who's just trying to open up his shop and make a living so he doesn't, go bankrupt. That goes to the opposite point. It's having an actual conversation, like the guy in the South who went around talking to KKK members and has convinced like a whole bunch here. I'm totally blanking right now on his name. But the whole thing, he goes one by one and just talks to people. And he has so far convinced over 100 guys to leave the KKK when they just...
How did he do that?
This is recent. This is the current guy. He's like in his 60s maybe.
Has he written a book? Like a how-to guy? That sounds amazing.
I'm gonna Google it now.
I mean, the Halakha Baal Shem Tov said that words create worlds. But I never thought of applying that to how to break someone else's world framework and supplement it with something holy through words, like creating a new world for someone who has a tainted world.
Right. It's fascinating because so many things we have like that are, the ingredients are all there. The recipe for it is there and has been taught to us, but we don't remember to implement it. What?
I think Dr. MLK's daughter did some work like that too, which we went down and met some alien supremacists. And
so the person I'm thinking of, his name is Daryl Davis. He's a blues musician. There's an article on NPR.org in 2017. Okay, so it's 3 years ago. How one man convinced 200 Ku Klux Klan members to give up their robes.
It's so interesting because my opinion more is about changing legislation. It's one thing to tear down statues, but it's another thing to tear down the statue of legislation and how to change rules and laws and try to better us in our country and make that better. Rules and laws that work or didn't work, stop and frisk, or some of the things that the Clinton administration introduced back in the day when it comes to prison reform in general. A lot of the work that Potash touched upon is very incredible, inspiring work. Like how do we take this moment and make changes in law versus
it gets hard because there's so many things that do need changing and do need work. What's the first thing we should?
If there was one law that you could change, what do you think it would be that would change it? Just one. If you only could change one law, what?
I do want to differentiate here. So I think that is a different question. The earlier question was, what do you think Americans can do? I think that's more Americans like as citizens. Which part of that is okay? So what do we vote on? But so that's why my answer to that was more the perspective. Have the conversations and just chat and talk and be open to your brother and sister and your neighbors that can change perspectives, which will then influence how we vote. But then there's the law. So then if I am a lawmaker, if I'm working in whether it's Congress, the Senate, President, or whatever it was, or if I was King of America, so if I was Oprah, what law would I pass?
If you were Oprah, man, I'd be Oprah's brother.
So I'm brainwashed as a Lubavitcher Chassid, but there's a big the thing that Rebbe Goldstein after the shooting in Poway pushed, that a lot of people have pushed and bring up every time these big things happen. The Rebbe tried to push is for those moments of silence in schools, not complete empty void silence, but the idea that there be a meditation. Now, for those that are religious, they can say their prayer. For those that are not religious, to think. And especially that moment, by giving that space, that pause, giving people meditative space, children, the smallest of children, just the 2 minutes to just think for a second, what world am I in? Who's around me? What's around me? Instead of just going through and just reacting, and the more digital we get, the faster we react, because there's more just to react to. You can live your whole life and never have a dull moment, never have an introspective moment, because there's so many things you can constantly keep, your IV of entertainment and your brain busy. But the moment that was pushed, that was pushed so much, especially pushed when these things of these senseless violence come up, is from this lack of awareness, a lack of, what are you doing? Why is that going to help you? Because you feel lonely, because you feel downcast, because you feel not unvalued? Where does that come from? You never took a moment to really stop and say, hey, look around me. And you go your whole childhood not noticing the kindnesses of others and the humanity in people, so then it doesn't exist. So then years later you have an adult who's very frustrated. He feels none of them are human. I'm the only one who's human. They're all animals or monsters. And they deserve to be cut down, or I need to cut them down, and it leads to a terrible, terrifying space. So I think as a law, I really would push again, because there's so many different laws we can make, but if it's coming from the wrong perspectives, all the right laws can be twisted into the worst of places and spaces, as we've seen in this country, and as Jews we've seen in many countries. You look into healthcare, it's the same thing. Every law that people complain about you can trace it back to someone who had a sincere, good idea to help protect people and help people have health care, for example. But then it got twisted, and the way it's used, and then it just becomes a mess. And then it makes it difficult, and then it's just a wall where some guy is left with some thousands of dollar bill for like a cotton swab after he leaves the hospital. If the perspective is there, then all the laws will fall into place. But if it's the wrong perspective, if the soul isn't there, all the laws could be there, but what you're left is with a Frankenstein's monster.
Listen, if Kanye West could run for president, so could you. Go for it, bro.
I don't know. I'm not as quick on my feet as Kanye. Kanye's good with the spitting rhymes.
He's a powerful force. So let's end the podcast with you singing the Chassidish Nigun, right? The thing is nice of the Alter Rebbe singing a Chassidish Nigun sometimes can end all debates and all discussions. So why don't you sing your favorite Chassidish Nigun for this moment?
I'll say on that thing of the Alter Rebbe, it's not just that it ends it. It's because what it did was lift people up to a height where there was no machlokes, there was no division, there was no...
Remember, Matisyahu, the Rebbe, lifted you out of the back of whatever concert that was onto the stage, and you inspired thousands of people. So now lift us up tonight on this podcast. Lift us up, brother. Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz again. Brother, it was another amazing podcast. L'chaim, a lot to think about, a lot to argue about. Beautiful.
Lots to talk about.
Oh, that's the point.
Don't ever let talk be cheap. I guess that's the point. You can't let it be cheap.
Yeah. Yes, L'chaim.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.